live, Marvin, without our host.
That's right. So Dwight just stepped out, I guess, to I think he would get some water, some books or something. He's going to be back shortly. Oh, there he is. Okay, coffee.
Our
No,
host.
no. You know what I went? No. You know what I went? I went to get this. I went to get this.
Oh, no, you're not going to do this to me today. See, this is what I have to remember about you.
Yes, I am.
You keep track.
Yeah. Yes, I am. Right? So, all right. So, okay, we're live, right? All right. Hello, everybody. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel, and this is Jeet Kune Dialogues, episode number 232, with my boys. I don't know. We're on the top. There is Marvin Ishmael, and on the bottom there, because he leads from the bottom, is G. Anthony Joseph.
Good one. Right? Good one.
So, yeah. So okay. So G is carrying on because I just sent him a ton of pictures from this book here. And for those of you who aren't familiar with this is the work of Linda Palmer / Linda Ashley / Linda Weintraub, right? And you've probably seen a lot of these photographs are familiar to people. You know, they've been on the pages of Black Belt and what have you. But if you don't have this, then I think you don't have all of them, because not all of them have been published. And so I sent them to G, and the perfectionist that he is, he was just carrying on about Bruce Lee's level of perfectionism, right? And actually in the book, Linda Palmer says the same thing about her level of perfectionism. And so that started a mini discussion, right, about perspectives on perfectionism in Jeet Kune Do. So here's what I want you guys to think about, right? Because I was talking about this on Wednesday in the broadcast. Sifu Dan has been heard to say that there were certain things that only Bruce Lee could do, right? And I think that a lot of people have misinterpreted that into, oh, well, if only Bruce could do it, then that's what is Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. Since we can't do it the way he did, then we shouldn't try to do Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. It's a really messed up way of thinking, I believe. It's like, if you can't do it the way Bruce Lee did it, then you shouldn't try it at all. Does that make any sense to you?
I'll let Marvin go.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense at all, because, you know, it's like saying, it's like, let's take automobiles, for example. Maybe I could drive a car, but I can't drive a truck, but I can drive, right? Saying that I can't drive because you can't drive a truck means you can't drive is wrong, right? So it's definitely an inaccurate statement to make. I mean, Bruce Lee, as we all know, was a superhuman, and he was way ahead of his time. And Guru Dan says that a lot, right? The way he would execute something was because of his body type and because of the person he was, because of the individual he was. I call him a superhuman, right? It doesn't mean that we can't try to do what he did, but at the end of the day, you know, we are creating our own Jeet Kune Do, but doing like a sidekick is a sidekick. My sidekick is going to look different from yours and from G's and from Bruce Lee's. But at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. It doesn't mean you will look like him absolutely, but it's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gee, you're frozen.
Me having no words, right? I agree with Marvin, but it can also be taken another way, which is he had a very wide variety of arsenals to draw from because of the different systems he did. So it could have been when, I mean, and we don't know really, right? When Dan said that there were things that Bruce could do that no one else can, that's because he knew more at that time than most people did. Because remember, one of the things that he brought into existence was this idea of combining different systems. But he was already doing he was already doing Wing Chun. He was already doing Chinese systems. He was already doing forms. So of course, when Dan sees this, it's got to be, oh my God. I mean, how many things can this guy do, right? So it could have been, if you just take it literally, that there are just some things Bruce can do that because nobody else knew it at that time or how to do it. When you look at that form, that piece of that little form he did in Enter the Dragon, inside the room, that's a form. That's part of a form that comes with the part where he's slapping his foot and kicking, right? And you see somebody doing that and jumping and spinning, and right, you could, only Bruce could do that, but that's because maybe only Bruce knew it at the time, which is probably more accurate.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that the average martial artist of that era was as committed to physical training as he was. You know, he was training more the way a professional athlete trains, you know, in an era when that was the norm for martial artists. I mean, martial artists did their thing, but not the way that he did. The funny thing is, I never hear anybody when we're discussing that topic, I never hear anybody say, well, no, you don't try to be Bruce Lee. You don't try to do things the Bruce Lee way because you're not him, but you are inspired by Bruce Lee to do the best that you can in whatever. Right. You never hear them talk about that. You never hear them talk about being inspired by him, modeling him, right? Because, you know, we have cinematic depictions of the way to do his techniques. And then if we look on the pages of the fighting method, right, then we have pictorial representation. So you can kind of put those together, and then with the benefit of being instructed by somebody who knows what the hell they're doing, you can get to a certain point. But you never hear about this, right? It makes me wonder. It makes me wonder, what role does Bruce Lee now play in the modern era for these people who are part of the lineage, right? They're followers, they're descendants, whatever term it is that you want to use. What do you think? What do they think about Bruce Lee? How do they approach Bruce Lee? Is he just a, 2 days ago we're supposed to be sad because it's the day that he passed away, right? You know, is he this iconic figure that you hold on a pedestal, and that's it, right? He was the founder of the system, but I don't understand. I don't get it. You know, there's a whole thing now about, well, maybe you shouldn't call what you do Jeet Kune because the founder passed away. Right? You ever heard anybody say, well, you shouldn't call what you're doing Judo because the founder passed away? You shouldn't call what you're doing Aikido because the founder passed away. But somehow, with Bruce Lee, since he's gone, maybe you shouldn't call what you're doing Jeet Kune. You ever heard that one?
Heard it before.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yep.
Does that make sense to you?
No, absolutely not. I mean, again, Jeet Kune is a personalized system, right? And which is founded upon Legion Fan Kung Fu, right? And I know I see Bruce Lee through the eyes of Guru Dan or Sifu Dan, my instructor, because in my opinion, I look at it from a martial arts perspective. Yes, I can read all the books and everything, look at all the illustrations and everything that are existing out there. But the kind of stories that he tells his instructors, that gives me a clear understanding of Bruce Lee, the instructor, Bruce Lee, the martial artist, Bruce Lee, the mentor to Guru Dan and his other instructors. I heard stories as well from Sifu Andy Kumara as well about Sigang Taki Kumara and Bruce Lee, and pretty much the same as Sifu Dan would say. So I see him through those eyes. Like I said, I can read books and everything, but there's only so much you can't get the personal aspect of it unless you were directly related to the training that he did. And Guru Dan and Sifu Francis Guru Dan and Sigang Taki clearly are those two individuals who have been there.
Yeah.
I just think it's a non-starter premise. The premise is just absurd.
Yeah.
Not even
I have to remind everybody that G's middle name is Succinct.
Well, I think, I give you an example. So I had a potential student some time ago, a couple of years ago, come by the academy asking to do Jeet Kune. And I asked him, I said, well, what is Jeet Kune to you? And he said, and quote unquote, what I see in Enter the Dragon is Jeet Kune, and I would have learned that. That's, you see, a lot of people would see stuff on film. Obviously, it's choreographed and it looks really good and all that, and they think that is Jeet Kune. So if you don't look like that, then you're not doing Bruce Lee's system. Unfortunately, that's the idea that a lot of people have.
What did you do with that person?
Well, one, he's not a student, because I explained to him that it's a process. Jeet Kune it's an individual expression, right? But there are certain foundations that have to be followed. There is curriculum in Junpan Kung Fu, and Jeet Kune is self-exploration. It's about using the fundamentals and the principles of Lee Junpan Kung Fu and exploring other arts. And I'll use that cliche: absorb what is useful, reject what is useless. I explained that situation, and the individual who's learning Jeet Kune needs to be open-minded. There's no argument there. You need to be open-minded. You can't say, I want to do what Bruce Lee did Enter the Dragon, but I'm not going to grapple on the floor, or I'm not going to do Muay Thai, or I'm not going to do Silat, or you're not training with an open mind, right? Jeet Kune is about self-expression. How can I express myself if I don't go out there and try those other arts?
Huh.
I mean, it's like a buffet restaurant. Gurdon always says, Jeet Kune is like a buffet restaurant. Your plate is going to be different to my plate, and G's plate is going to be different. We're all going to go at the same table, but our plates are going to look totally different.
Yeah, but Marvin, that appears to be giving people license to put whatever it is they want on their plate and call it Jeet Kune.
Yes and no.
So a guy, so listen to this, right? What if a guy goes to a vegan buffet and another guy goes to a meat lovers buffet, right? And then or the other guy goes to the seafood buffet, and so now they're pulling from one type of thing. Everybody gets to call that Jeet Kune. Are there any requisites, prerequisites, right? Is there anything that it must have this? You must have this on your plate in order for it to actually be Jeet Kune. Are there guidelines for that?
Yeah, in my opinion, there is. So that's why I said, Jeet Kune is founded on Lee Junpan Kung Fu, which has a defined curriculum. It's for that. That's the foundation of the system, right? That existed between 1964 and 67, and there is a defined curriculum which is taught by Sifu Dan and by the Kumara clan in Seattle. And I see a lot. Sorry.
Where and when and how does the student start his or her JKD learning?
When there is understanding, and when you can start walking on your own 2 feet, so to speak. The foundation is there. You look at the footwork, you look at the proper way to punch with hip rotation, you look at the basic, the fundamentals of the 5 ways of attack. When you understand those principles, there are set techniques as well that are taught, right? Within the curriculum. So it's only when you have that open mind and you can start exploring and using those fundamentals. Like I could use attack by drawing, for example, ABDs. If you don't understand what that is, then you can't apply it. Then you can't say what you're doing is Jeet Kune. You need to understand what you're doing, and then you start exploring and self-expressing. So then you can take again, let's say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai, for example. They're attack by drawing principles that you can apply to those arts, right? So that is when you understand the concepts and you start exploring and start moving, not away from, but the branches start growing outwards from the root. And the root is the Lee Junpan Kung Fu principles.
But where did Bruce Lee get attacked by drawing from?
I am not sure. I'm pretty sure I guess it would be from a different art, but I can't say.
Yeah, right. Well, see, because he didn't create it, right? The 5 ways of attack initially 4 ways of attack, came from his observation of combat methods, combat strategies. So attack by drawing is not unique to Jeet Kune Do. So the reason why I ask you this is because you said that it becomes Jeet Kune Do when you have an understanding. Well, I can give somebody an understanding on day one of what attack by drawing is. On day one, I can give them an understanding. So can I not say then from day one that they're studying Jeet Kune Do? I'm devil's advocating right now, okay?
You can say that.
And you see how G keeping quiet? This is what G said. He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna sit back in my director's chair and watch you and Marvin go off."
And then I'm gonna get up and do some action. We're gonna get up. We're on our feet today. Go ahead.
Well, to answer your question directly, you explaining to someone what Jeet Kune Do is doesn't mean that they can now stand on their own 2 feet. Like I said before, you telling me to sit in my car, stick the key in the ignition, turn it clockwise, put it in P, which means park, drive, doesn't mean that I could drive. You're explaining a process to me, but can I do that process? I can only do that process through self-exploration and practice.
That's not true.
Why not?
That's not true. Because if I'm your instructor, I'm there, I'm gonna teach it to you.
But not in a day. It takes time.
Well, of course not. No, nobody's saying that you understand Jeet Kune Do in a day. What I'm saying, right, is that I can teach Jeet Kune Do from day one. I don't have to teach Wing Chun. I don't have to teach Jun Fan Gung Fu, as people call it, or what have you. And I'll tell you why I say this, right? The day that Bruce Lee started using the term Jeet Kune Do to identify his art, his method, his approach, which beforehand, I mean, you can see stuff where he wrote or even labeled stuff the Jun Fan method. But the day that he started using the term Jeet Kune Do, there was no substantial difference in what he was doing or what he was teaching. So I don't understand the idea that, well, no, you got to have Jun Fan Gung Fu first, and then you have Jeet Kune Do.
Well, let's flip it. Can you have Jeet Kune Do without Jun Fan Gung Fu?
Well, you cannot, because the term Jun Fan Gung Fu existed.
I think he's frozen, G.
Frozen, yeah.
There are some approaches in Jeet Kune Do thinking that have long existed, and many people subscribe to them. But what if there was a different way of looking at it? So everyone,
I think we're having some technical difficulties.
I wonder if we can pull it up on. Let me see what's happening. Yes, well, wait a minute. Yeah, the one on Facebook, Marvin is a little behind.
Yeah, I think he just jumped off to come back on. Yeah, so while we wait for Sifu Dwight to come back, I think he is shortly here now. Okay, he's back on.
He is back.
Well, he's not back yet. He joined, but he's not. He's trying to connect. So while we wait, G, do you want to comment on the topic?
Yeah, I was waiting for you guys to actually be. I don't think it would be fair to Dwight if I comment if he doesn't hear.
Okay. Yeah.
But let's do this. There's something I'm sure everybody would want to know. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back.
He's back.
Were you all talking about me behind my back?
Yeah. Marvin tried, but I backed out.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
And here now, big shot get rolled in a movie, Marvin, and he's using weapons.
Oh, nice, excellent, very good.
We cannot mess with him at all. Okay.
So I am among royalty. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
You're frozen again. Hopefully we don't lose you. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I wonder what's going on in Dwight end. Any storms going on over there? So what I wanted to ask you, Marvin, was how the testing. I mean, that was really, really quite impressive. All the testing you did with all of your students recently. Is it a really long process that everybody has to go through beforehand?
So the testing depends on the rank, that you're testing for, and eligibility for testing has to satisfy certain criteria, which is time and attendance. Of course, skill level, right? So prior to the testing, there is a
Right.
process of pre-evaluation or evaluation to determine whether the student is actually ready, even though the two criteria have been met. A lot of times, you know, there may be some additional work required, and that is communicated to the students. But the testing depends on the rank, and
And
once they
are you going? Are you traveling with them in terms of every 3 months or 4 months or 6 months they test, or is it they have to cover a certain amount of information regardless of how long that takes before they test?
right, so there's a time frame. So in some cases it's 4 months, in some it's 6 months, 8 months, or a year and beyond, right? Depending on the level. And the higher the rank, the higher the time frame is. And there is material, there's testing curriculum that is required for each level. So they have to satisfy certain technical requirements, and they need to demonstrate those requirements under a pressure situation. Because testing, as you know, is pressure, right? So we put them under pressure. They can perform it in class in front of everybody normally, but
Right.
the moment you mention the word test, that is now a real show of what you're capable of doing as a martial artist, and that's what it's all about: performing under pressure.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about some of the clips you sent me when you were testing them. So if you have somebody that's talented, a lot of talented people don't like to come to class sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But you have someone that's not as talented, but they're there all the time. Will the talented person have to be kept back until his attendance is up?
Yeah, if your attendance is not there, you don't qualify for testing. You can't.
A package. Interesting.
Right. If you are good and you don't show up for class,
right.
That to me is a mindset. That's an ego problem. And one of the biggest requirements for testing is discipline and humility.
Very nice.
Right. And if you could be really skilled as an individual, but if you can't
Right.
show humility, or you don't have discipline, it doesn't matter what your rank is, you won't be tested, or you'll be held back, or you just you'll be asked to work on those attributes before.
Okay, Dwight, I tried to be you, it's not working, so go ahead, pick it up from where you left. I need the roster.
You had Marvin talking about testing at his school and what have you.
I want you all to go back to that subject because I want to jump in.
Yeah, but look, gee, Marvin is a big time martial arts business icon.
Excuse me, you see the background. You see his background, his extended office. Okay,
that's a fake background. It's not real.
Right. Yeah, he wants everybody to believe. I should shoot. It was in the laundry today because I wore it this week.
Yeah.
The WCMAA shirt.
Yeah, but before you go back to your conversation, let me just jump this in. Let me tell you how big shot of a Marvin is.
Oh my
so
God.
Yesterday was the first time I realized when we in our little group chat, Marvin doesn't listen to my voice messages. I catch him. But here's how I catch him.
Oh yeah?
Here's how I caught him yesterday. I asked a very important Facebook question by voice. He never answered it. He answered everything else. But so I said, you know what? He's a big shot now. He have big extension. So yeah.
Right.
I know where I stand.
I have all of them saved up. I'm going to sit down and listen to them one by one. I'll do that.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to tell you something about testing, right? When I ran my school, the only time we used the word test was in between ranks. So there was no such thing as a rank test, right? Because the idea was this, it was a radical idea. And it was a radical idea simply because I believe that as much as possible in Jeet Kune, you should have a radical approach. So my philosophy was this, especially the kids, right? You know, a lot of people are fearful even of the word test, right? Because people don't relish being tested or what have you. So we used to use the word evaluation. So there was a rank evaluation, right? Because an evaluation is an open and honest accounting of where you're at. See, I don't have to test you to know what you know because I teach you all the time. So if I pay attention to you in class, I know what you know. I know what you're capable of. I don't have to test you. But what I'm going to do is on evaluation day, I'm going to put you under pressure and see how you perform. And then you're going to see it for yourself. I know what you know, but you're going to prove to yourself and everybody else during this evaluation if you can do it under pressure. You see? So we had evaluations, and then it was as simple as this. All right, this looks good. This doesn't look good. You get 4 weeks to bring it up to scale. And then we take a look at it again. But the pre-framing from day one was that there's no test to pass or fail. You see? Because I didn't want to imprint that idea on their mind that there's a test coming up that you could pass or fail. There's an evaluation, and it's going to be open and honest, and we're going to tell you what's good, what might not be so good. And if everything's good, then you attend graduation. If everything's not so good, you get 4 weeks to work on this specific thing, and then we take a look at it again and we go, right? And that was just my radical approach, because I wanted to keep in the spirit of avoiding using anything classical or traditional. So that included uniforms and belts and all that stuff, because to me, that's the true Jeet Kune spirit, right? Now, not everybody feels about it that way, and which is fine. Whatever works for you works for you. I got no problem with that. But what I have noticed is that a lot of people in JKD are not, and gee, this is how, like we have talked about, they're not emphasizing the right things, you see? And so they're not emphasizing, for example, aiming to be perfect in the way they move. They're interested in collecting a lot of material, you know, because Sifu Dan puts out a lot of material. So they're interested in collecting a lot of material, but they're not interested in perfecting a few things. And that's the Bruce Lee example. Absolutely. Marvin is correct. Bruce Lee had a diverse background, and Bruce Lee could do a lot of things. But read his writings, get into his mindset, and you'll realize it's a couple of things that you can pull off against everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? That's where it's at.
That's right.
So that radical approach, I don't see it being used that much in modern day Jeet Kune. Modern day Jeet Kune has become a thing. It's almost as if modern day Jeet Kune and old school Jeet Kune are two separate entities. Instead of modern day Jeet Kune being the natural, normal progression and evolution of old school Jeet Kune. Paying attention and staying true to guidelines and principles and concepts. What do you say?
Let Marvin go. Absolutely. No, I fully agree with you. I'll just back up a bit to your initial point about pressure testing and evaluation. So the approach I use with the students, the kids especially, is, they have a mindset of always being ready, because we want to have them ready to test every day. And I would ask them, when do we test? And in unison they would say every day, because Me calling up one of myself or one of my instructors, calling them up to demonstrate in front of the class is an evaluation of their technique and how they can show it in front of a class. Now, everybody knows that, or most people would know that knowing a technique and teaching a technique is two totally different things, right? So you actually, the philosophy is that we test every day. And I took a page out of Sifu Burton Richardson's book. When it was in 2019, I met him at Sigang Taki's 95th birthday celebration, and he did a seminar there with Sifu Chris Kent. And I know he taught me something that has stuck since. There are 3 questions we ask ourselves when we're training. Do you know it? Can you do it? And can you do it under pressure? And that's the philosophy I take with the training, or I try to take, so that, because knowing a technique is great. That's excellent. But let's be real, in martial arts, it's all about performing under pressure, right? So I don't know if I deviated from the point there. I just wanted to point that out, as you mentioned. But yes, as you mentioned in the last there, that Bruce Lee was different. He was different, and I fully agree with that. And it's not the same for everybody.
What? How you mean it's not the same for everybody? What do you mean?
Meaning that we can't compare ourselves to Bruce Lee and try to emulate. I mean, we could try to emulate him, but at the end of the day, as we mentioned earlier, if you're doing a technique and it doesn't look like Bruce Lee, it doesn't mean you're not doing Jeet Kune, if we want to be that specific, right? Yeah. Because he was a different individual. He was built differently, right? That makes sense.
I mean, he was built differently. I mean, Bruce Lee has physical characteristics that a lot of other 5'7" Chinese guys had. So I just think that the idea of we shouldn't take the idea of Bruce Lee being unique. We shouldn't take that idea too far. Mm-hmm. So far that it becomes, like we were talking about earlier, that you can't, you only he could do whatever. Because it's not true. It's not true. Right? Everybody can sidekick. Right. Everybody, right? Yep. Everybody can swing nunchaku. Right? Whatever it is we have seen Bruce Lee do, whatever it is we have heard about Bruce Lee doing, everybody can do it. Unless they're physically incapable or what have you.
You can do it, but can you do it like him? That's the question.
But that's not the question.
Well, that is the question now. So yeah, the question right? about whether you're doing Jeet Kune or not, you are correct. You answered that. You can do it. It's a sidekick is a sidekick. You can do it once your form is right and all that. It may not look the same, right? Mm-hmm. Because mm-hmm. it's unique to everybody's, not just their physical build, but their mindset. Your right. mindset determines how you execute a technique, not just your physical right. build, right? So it's a cumulative it's a collection of attributes that have to go into the execution of a technique. And he had, if we were to use the term, he had everything that it took to be the quote unquote perfect martial artist, right? So and that's what we saw in film. We saw perfection on film, and that is on film. And by hearing stories from Guru Dan and Sigang Taki and whatnot, that's what we have to relate to. These are people who were intimate with him on a physical level.
Yeah. And
that's what made him unique. Now, people may have tried to emulate him, but has anybody done so in the past 50 years?
See, so, well, context matters. Mm-hmm. Because there are people who will tell you, right? Well, if we're talking about, context matters. And one of the things that will affect, one of the contexts that will affect the conclusion is the fact that he passed away 49 years ago. And there mm-hmm. are people who continued on, right? So depending on the context. But don't miss my point. emulate in the sense of trying to copy, trying to move exactly like Bruce Lee moved is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if I'm going to sidekick mentally, right? I run images, like I run my favorite image of a Bruce Lee sidekick in my head, right? To give myself a particular feeling, to develop a particular attitude, and then I kick.
So you're trying to emulate him?
No.
You have his picture playing in your mind. You want to look like him and be better than him.
I don't. No. I don't want to look like him. I run his image as inspiration.
Right.
So I would use the word modeling, but modeling is not copying or emulating. Right. My sidekick is going to be powered, so to speak, by my image, by my Bruce Lee sidekick imagery.
Right. Got it. Yeah.
Right. Now, is G yawning and scratching because we're boring him, or what the hell are you doing?
I think he has something to say.
I'm waiting for my. You go ahead.
It's your turn.
Not yet. I'm watching this.
I mean, not yet.
We knew it was like this. I said.
No, what are you waiting on?
I'm watching the ping pong. Marvin see me smiling, I smiling both ways.
Oh man. You know, I am still a little bit worried. Marvin, can you check and see, are we actually on Facebook? Because
we are, yes. I'm going to be seeing comments and everything
here is.
Oh, you can see that, Marvin?
We are?
No, I have it on my, there are comments on the side here. And I have it open on my phone. We are live on Facebook. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Because I can't see anything, and I don't know what it is that happened.
Anybody commenting how pretty Dwight is or no? No, nobody. Those are the ones I like to have. No. Okay.
Oh no. That's not allowed. Right. You can only tell me how pretty I am in private. You can't tell me that on a live stream.
Oh yes.
Right? We don't play that game.
Yes, it's there. Yeah. All right.
We don't play that game.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well. Yeah, because when I reload, like it drops out and doesn't tell me if we're still live or on Facebook or whatever. But you know what? Me and Facebook ain't friends anyhow, because I think it started last week. I try to sign on and they go, oh, your account has been blocked because of suspicious activity.
Oh my!
So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me if it's suspicious activity, like somebody attacking my account, or is it suspicious activity coming out of my account? They can't say. They don't tell you anything.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like, oh, okay, so you should change your password, and then, you know, and so we'll run through this and whatever. And then, you know, sometimes it takes 24 hours and they'll give it back to you. But like I noticed this a few weeks ago. So when I do the announcement, the postcard. So for example, when I do the preview postcard for this Jeet Kune Dialogues episode, I will share it to I Love Jeet Kune.
Yeah.
And then a little while later, they will tell me that post on I Love Jeet Kune violated their terms and their terms. And they don't tell you what the violation was. And it's the exact thing. So I don't know if now there's this thing where if you copy something from one Facebook page to another Facebook page, you're violating something. So anyway, so me and Facebook ain't really big friends now, you know. So gee, somebody had put a comment. Marvin, do you remember anything about the last time we talked about G being afraid of cuss words? Somebody actually commented on that.
Vaguely, I remember vaguely, yes.
I don't remember that at all. I did an Instagram post about it, but I don't remember that at all on our last conversation.
Okay, so don't embellish on this that I said.
Yeah.
But G already coaching me for an upcoming project, right? On how to cuss. Right?
That's a script. We get to pretend.
So
And
that
it's a
doesn't count.
big word too. It's a big word. Oh my God. Oh God. That's the guy's name who's going to be on here.
Yeah.
But can I comment on what you guys are saying?
Yeah, man, go.
I think you're both saying the same thing, but in two different directions. And I think it has to be, this is my biggest issue with being an outsider looking into Jeet Kune, right? It's okay. So it's like Dwight was saying, this imagery is going through my head. I don't think people even realize, Marvin, what that imagery is or should be. For instance, it's not about looking like Bruce, but think about the principles that he spoke about. A, non-telegraphic. B, don't even blink before you move. C, if you're going to do a psychic, you can't even do that first. D, you can't even move your head first unless you're faking. If you're practicing a psychic, the only thing that should move first is the back foot coming up, and then everything else is delivered. Now, if those principles are not necessarily going to make you look like Bruce Lee, but those are the things Bruce spoke about, right?
Yep.
It's like me and my teacher. My teacher is 6'2". I am 5'7". I know that some of the techniques that he does are not going to work for me. But when I'm practicing, I'm thinking about him. Why? Because I know that when he sees a shot coming in here and he's blocking here and he's going to double block with this elbow, that he's not going to let this hand pass his center line. He's not going to let the elbow go over here. He's going to go right. Now, does that mean it's going to look like him? No, but the principle is the same. Even though I'm not going to look exactly like him, which is the same thing, people, when you talk about the visualization. That's
Absolutely.
my
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Overall concept, the objective world you're living in that Bruce created cannot change. That's actually, well, if the earth spins around, the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, whatever, right? Well, we can change that and then we can go do this. No, you can't, because if you change that, everything else is going to fly up into space. We're dead. So this is the objective world Bruce created. And within that world, then we're going to do our moves, but we cannot forget the simple things, right? You can't twitch your foot before you move. You can't twitch it, I mean, those are just simple, basic things this man taught and spoke about.
Marvin, let's keep the animated G going, right? And talk about.
Well, I think there's one thing he said I don't agree with. He said he's 5'7". I am 5'7.5", and I can eat soup off the top of his head. So I don't agree with that.
Every time I say I'm 5'7", Rhea says G. Come on. That's what my heels on, shoes on.
Anyway,
I'm
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Right?
Well, I sent you the thing of all the requirements that they asked of me for this upcoming project, right?
Yeah.
And so I actually had one of my students yesterday with a measuring tape, right? Trying to get me, because all I know is that I wear an extra large tam because of my hair. I wear an extra large t-shirt and I wear large sweatpants. That's it. I don't know jacket size. I don't know neck and inseam and all that stuff because that's not a real, that's not like a part of my everyday world. Anyhow, we keep in the animated G going because we want to talk about forms in Jeet Kune.
Oh my Lord. Oh my God. Okay, Marvin, from this point forward, when we're in our private group chat on WhatsApp, I am hardly ever going to speak anymore because he's not on there to be our friend, I now realize why he's on there. His aim is to throw all that stuff at you back at his show. And he keeping notes, man.
That's right.
Not really.
Nah.
See, it's because that stuff is valuable, right? So I don't think that it should necessarily, I mean, whatever parts of it we want to keep private, we keep private, right? But I value your, as you could like to call yourself, an outsider, a JKD outsider and a JKD observer, right? One thing I learned from Sifu Nasano is to get feedback from people who aren't necessarily doing what you're doing, right? They have a connection to you and what you do, but they're not necessarily doing exactly what you're doing in the way that you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I value your input, right? Whether or not we look at it exactly the same way. Now, I don't remember Marvin weighing in very much on the whole discussion that we had about forms in Jeet Kune Do,
that's
right?
because when I start to talk, he's muted out. We discovered that yesterday.
Yeah.
Right.
See,
Okay.
yeah.
I have the chat saved. I'll go back to it.
I never plan what I'm going to say, but I planned this, Dwight, yesterday. I planned this. You do it so well. I have to be a real trainer now. We had to pull him down now. Right?
Right. Well, okay. So Marvin, I will fill you in. Right. What the point that G was trying to make about forms in Jeet Kune Do is that, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You don't see a lot of people in Jeet Kune Do aiming for perfection in their technique, right? The reason, G's point is that one of the reasons why Bruce was perfect in his technique was because he was perfect in forms. You see, he had the understanding of body positioning and all that stuff. But you don't see that. When you see people who are proponents of forms in Jeet Kune Do, you don't see them doing anything perfectly or even trying to do anything perfectly. So my contention is, well, then why are you even doing it? Why are you even doing it if you're not going to be perfect in it? And by perfect, I mean, part of what I mean is you're going to practice the form in the way that you would perform the technique. Because when you watch G do the Chuan Fa forms, I'm going to call it. I don't know if that's the right term.
It's not, but go ahead. I'll let
right?
you get it.
There's not a whole lot of deviation from the way he moves in the air versus the way he moves when he's hitting an object, and that object represents the human target.
Well, shoot,
there's not a whole lot of right.
You got your arms exactly right too. I was watching the little finger on the wow. Okay, go ahead.
That's why I don't like to send him no video of me, right? Because one day my heel not gonna be raised, right? And I will hear about it for weeks.
That's right. That's right.
I love it. I love it.
Right? All right. So Marvin, me and G don't remember you weighing in on the whole form.
I didn't. I have to go back through the conversations, and I'll definitely weigh in.
Oh no, you can weigh in now.
But yeah, I am. Yeah, but I agree. You know, so I personally, because of the array of arts that we teach, we do forms, right? For example, Wing Chun. There are forms that are in the Wing Chun curriculum, and I see the benefit of doing those forms the way that they're intended to be done, and it definitely helps in execution of the technique. It does help, right? You look at Jeet Kune Do, you know, we say there's no forms in Jeet Kune Do and whatnot, but the Ang Mon form, the 5 gates form, is something that was practiced a lot, right? Back then, by that's Sifu Yuri Nakamura did it a lot. Guru dance instructors, teachers. So I'm pretty sure that somewhere along the timeline it was taught. Maybe it fell off the radar, but that is something that I still teach, or we still teach at the academy here. The Ang Mon form. I see the benefits on that. right? When you look at all of those movements, they can be applied in a practical way.
What's the benefit of doing this Tanda thing?
Right. Okay. That's a good question. That's a good question.
Yeah, what's the benefit of that?
As opposed to the builder, Tanda is a hand position that could transform into a bongsao easily, right?
Now that's interesting. No,
Yep.
whoa. That's interesting because in the form, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the form, I don't see the Tanda being transformed into anything.
It's not in the form, but
then what? So then, how does the form translate into the execution of the technique?
That is
you
where
see how I'm beating him up? You see how I'm beating him up?
That is where the open-mindedness and the Jeet Kune comes in. Having the tools and being able to use the right tools in the right application. You will not use a screwdriver to hammer a nail. You use the right tool, but you need to have that foundation, understand the foundation, understand the application, and be able to transition from one to the next. There is a bongsao.
But Marvin, the application is not in the form.
Well, you can't have every possible application in a form. That's not practical. How many ways can I execute a kick?
So that's why you get rid of the form and you focus instead on practicing the practical applications.
Well, no.
Well,
I don't agree. You need to have that form and you add to the form. And you create your own form based on application. Okay? Look at it this way. Let's say I'm executing a technique. Let's say somebody's feeding me a jab and a cross, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna parry riposte, for example. Mm-hmm. I can practice that like a form. I start off slowly, focusing on hip rotation, proper foot positioning, pinky finger positioning, all those kind of things. By me doing that slowly, repeatedly, I am working on a form. I'm working on my form and execution of a technique, which when sped up and I'm put under pressure, it's execution. But it's a form that I'm working on a particular skill or skill set. Right. Every technique can be broken down into a form to learn it, because you have to go slow before you can go fast. If I'm going slow, I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm doing it over and over. I'm actually doing a form that I created.
Yeah.
So then I'm not deviating. I am doing a form. So technically, we are not getting rid of forms. A proper way of training is doing it slowly. Doing it slowly over and over is doing a form. By definition, that is what it is.
No, right? Doing it slowly and just doing it spontaneously is slow motion shadow boxing,
which is form. When you do shadow boxing in slow motion, you're working on your form.
So now we got to differentiate between the two readings of the word form. You see, so the Moon form is not something that translates into application.
I'll agree to disagree.
So you just talked about the jab cross, right?
Right.
Okay. In what I've seen, the so-called application of I have not seen any of it done against the jab cross.
In the Moon form?
Yes.
Okay.
I have not seen any of it done now. So I'm not saying that there isn't somebody out there who could do it, right? I'm saying I haven't seen any video of anybody using the specific movements of the form to handle jab cross, to handle jab hook. I have not seen anybody using the specific movements of the form to handle maybe a kick attack followed by a hand. The way that they will in focus mitt drills, so that you have the jab cross counter-offensive series, you have the jab hook counter-offensive series, you have the front kick counter-offensive series, the side kick counter-offensive series, right?
Right.
So we have all these drills that we do on the focus mitts. And then you have this static, right? And all those drills are dynamic, closer to practical application. And you don't necessarily have to remember all of them in a sequence. You can just have somebody start throwing the jab cross at you and you do whatever comes out. But then we have this static pattern, which has to be remembered in a specific order in order to be doing it correctly. That is my objection. Nothing in Jeet Kune Do, nothing written by Bruce Lee says the way to performance excellence is in a form that goes 1 to 2 or A to B to C or whatever. There is nothing in Bruce Lee's writings that lead you down that path. Instead, there is what? My followers in Jeet Kune Do, do listen to this. All fixed set patterns are incapable of pliability or adaptability. The truth is found outside of all fixed patterns. There's that. So you tell me where that writing, that belief, that philosophy leads people to doing something like this, and then like this, and then like this, and then like this, and requiring people to remember the set pattern, the fixed set pattern in Jeet Kune Do. Where does that directive come from in Bruce Lee's writings?
Well, okay, so the way I look at it as a form, and the definition of a form that I got 40 years ago is a form is a set collection of movements in sequence.
Yeah.
Right. That
form
when
is a
broken,
kata.
correct. That when broken apart can be applied in a specific situation. So you look at a kata. You look at a kata in karate, for example. Obviously, no fight. If we were to choreograph a fight using a form, it is never going to be like that in reality. But when broken apart, when you break apart systematic movements, each of those movements can be applied to a specific attack or a specific offense, defense,
So
or
why don't
offense,
we just
right?
train the broken? Why don't we just train the broken parts?
Because
why do I ever have to put them together and remember and actually have that be part of my test?
Because
so that if I don't remember them in this particular sequence, which I will never use,
right,
I could fail my test.
Correct. Because as with everything, in life, there has to be organization. Okay, you need to. What you're doing is you're filing techniques in your brain. Okay, in a systematic way. That way you can display that. Now, this is what it comes down to. It comes down to experience. You learn a certain sequence of movements. It doesn't mean that you can execute. But when you can separate those movements into actual application, that is when you know that you understand the movement. You understand what you're doing, and you're not just doing it because.
So this is what I'm telling you. In Bruce Lee's evolution as a martial artist, that last part there, breaking stuff apart and training the separate parts, that's where he went. Yeah. He did not go in the direction of let's train all these things together, these 50 movements, right? And you have to learn the specific order of these 50 movements. But really, what we want to get good at is breaking these 50 movements into, I'll make it up, into 10 practical 5-count movements. We really want to get good at that, because that's the real fighting.
Yes.
You see? So what's the argument for taking those 10 5-count things? G warming up. Look, he warming up, right? Ooh. Taking those 10 5-count things and putting them into a sequence where I could fail to get my belt because I can't remember the sequence.
Yeah.
G?
Are you ready? All right, so let me give you a little...
I figure by now we lost both the Facebook and the YouTube audience by now, right? I can't see anything, so you know.
This is important. This is hugely important.
All right, go.
Extremely important, guys. First of all, the original name, Chinese name given to forms is Tao Lu. And the meaning of that word was a path to the system. A path to the system. Bruce can say all the stuff he wanted to say years after he went through that. There is no way in hell he can come back and tell everybody, hell no, don't do forms anymore. You're going to look like me. You're going to get as good as me. Just do it like this. No, absolutely not. No, it doesn't work like that. That's like all these
So why? So
making all their money in capitalism. Then they get rich and they come tell Marvin, no, Marvin, capitalism doesn't work. Hell no, no, no.
G.
So,
Anthony Joseph, are you saying? Are you so Bruce Lee was misleading his people?
No. I just at the time he's young. You yourself said this. He's
me.
I can say whatever the hell I want. Hell, one time, Marvin, I'm teaching a form in the club. Ria is teaching a form in St. Fimbers, and she jumps back twice to give herself room, and everybody behind her jumps back twice too. She was like, no, that's not part of the form. I was just giving myself what, right? No, listen to me. Marvin is right. Marvin is right, because Dwight, listen, Bruce came out of all of that, and when he threw a punch, you could tell he threw a punch. When he parried, his hand was on his center line. When he moved to a parry, you could see the positions of his hand and how he was, where his elbow was, where his finger. Where the hell do you people think that came from? Where do people think that came from? Right? It came from his forms. It came from the study. Even as he started to develop, he was very aware of the positioning of his body because forms taught him that. A specific move. Now, whether you're going to apply, later on, he didn't. Because later on, what he did was he says, no, we're not going to do that. Maybe we'll do that. But it involved an evolution from having the ability to do that and come off that center line. You can't just get rid of that and then have everybody say, okay, now go. Then you get the issues you have today. I'm sorry.
I don't think that the practice of a dead set pattern is going to develop the attributes that you need.
Okay, like this, I want you to listen to this one thing. That I agree with you. Now, let me, in all fairness to you, Dwight, let me say this, okay? So when my teacher was learning the forms from his teacher, right? The form, I'm just going to give you one specific move. 1, 2, 3. See? As time went along and the system started to evolve, Cunningham was the one who said, well, it doesn't really work like that when we're fighting. So in the form, I'm going to make some adjustments and I'm going to do that. But it has to follow the same path. The reason why he taught you to stop here was because everybody needs to remember this is a strike to a target. The reason why this elbow needs to stop here is because everybody realizes this is a shot. And the reason why this has to come back is because I want everybody to remember we're not hitting here. We got to hit where the elbow was. You can't teach that if you just do that in the beginning.
What if you teach it slowly?
You've got to break it down. So there has to be a way where it transitions into what we consider.
But why? But answer this. But why do I have to take those 3 motions you just showed?
Yes.
Right. And let's say I put it on the right side, then I put it on the left side.
Yeah.
Right. And then I add another 4. And then I add 5 more. So now I have a 12 movement thing. Why do I have to do that?
Because Dwight, when you are
and why do I have to commit it to memory?
When you don't have to commit it to memory. Now we commit it to memory, but as we're doing it, I'm always thinking combat, so that when I jump in and I'm fighting with some of the students and I go to attack them, I don't want to make sure the attack is like this. I want to make sure the attack is exactly how I was practicing on the form, because the form is a reference. It's your dictionary. It is this is what it actually means. So if you don't break it down, you're going to be all over the place, which is what we're seeing today in Jeet Kune Do.
That's right. A form, to add to what G is saying, a form is a manifestation of what a movement should look like, right? And you do the form, it's a repeated motion to understand what you're doing. Yes, there is a sequence of learning. There are 26 by 2 movements in the Ang Moon form. There are 26 different applications. If when fractured, it can be applied in a particular situation. But I cannot do any kind of movement unless I understand the body mechanics of that. To understand the body mechanics, I learn the form. Going from one to the next, from 1 to 26 in that order is just the way it was created. We could go from 26 to 1, or you can go mix up the numbers in any pattern. It's just a sequence of learning. But each of those, when isolated, can be applied in a particular situation. It's just a method of learning.
So then there's no need for it.
Why is there no need for
whatever, I'll tell you why, right? I'll tell you why. See, it goes back again to the anti-classicalism that should be Jeet Kune Do. When I was studying, when I was spending time in Shotokan, you could not go right at the start of Heian Shodan.
Right.
Because if you went right, you were doing it wrong. You see? So in Jeet Kune Do, like you just said, you could start at 26 and work backwards. Because we have that freedom in Jeet Kune Do to do whatever the heck it is that we want. But if you were to do Ang Moon 26 to 1, people would say you're doing it incorrectly.
I could call it something else. I could call it something. I could call it my own creation.
So now we're creating a new form for Jeet Kune Do.
No, hold on. That is my expression of my understanding. I was explaining to you earlier. If I could be doing a defense against a jab and a cross and attack, if I'm slowing that down as much as I need to perfect my body mechanics, I am doing a form. I am working a form, and I can call it what I want. That's my method.
Watch me test Marvin's jab cross counter offensive knowledge right now. Okay, Marvin, give me 3. Give me 3 responses from the jab cross counter offensive series. Go. Give me 3.
Jab cross. Okay. Shoulder roll and now-tech. Shoulder roll and jig-tech. Parry on the outside, parry on the inside, parry with a jab, parry with a cross. Shoulder stop, bicep stop, fist stop. Jong Sao.
Okay. Right. Well, so all right. So you see that? Okay. Well, we're not going to go into details of that. Okay. How many of those that you just called out, right, can be found in Ang Moon?
Jab cross. Okay, so let's see. What did I call? Shoulder roll. There's no shoulder roll. There's a shoulder roll. Parry. There's a parry with the jig tech to the side, to right or to the left. So the parry is in there.
Whoa. But the parry with the jig tech, right, in the form does not look the same way as the parry with the jig tech in the jab cross series.
That's because it's followed by a side kick. And in Ang Moon, it's followed by a side kick in the Ang Moon. Whereas with the cross counter, it's followed by your ABCs.
So why are we drilling stuff in the learning of Jeet Kune Do one way, which is alive, focus mit, and developing stuff, and then doing it another way that we're not going to use?
We are, but we do use it. You can isolate any of those 26 movements and then follow up and add your ABCs to that. So we can train it that way as well. I can do my builder and I can follow up with ABCs. Right? If you look at the jab hook series, the ABD in the Junfan curriculum, one of them is a tanda or a builder. Right? That is in the Ang Moon form, number 1 and number 2, or number 1 and number 3, right? I can follow with my ABCs after that. So I am isolating one of the Ang Moon forms and adding to that and adding my ABCs.
See, it's okay. So it's a little thing, but it's really interesting, right? You said that it's in the Ang Moon form. right?
Yeah.
The Buda or the Tanda.
Yeah.
Okay. But it isn't. It's not in the jab hook counteroffensive. Because in the jab hook counteroffensive, right? You catch and then you go.
Mm.
In the Moon form, the catch doesn't exist.
So what if you throw me a hook only? What if there's no jab before the hook? What if you throw me a hook? What do I do? Why can't I use the builder?
Well, so now we're talking about something different, right? I think we mentioned the jab hook series, the 1-3 series, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sticking to that.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so because I'm making the point that catch to Buda is not in the form. So why practice the form? We got a way
because the 1-3 series is not the be all and end all. It's a series of many. It's one of many series, right? We can take the 52 movements in the Angmun. You can create a dynamic situation out of each of those 52 movements because they are each specific to an attack.
Then that could, right? That you just used should be eliminated, right? And instead of could, that's what you should be doing. You shouldn't be practicing the 52 in a set sequence 1 to 52, requiring people to remember the set sequence 1 to 52 when the actual use, well, not when, if the actual use of the 1 to 52 is not 1 to 52. You should practice what you would actually use in the way that you would actually use it.
You're missing a big. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I'm still missing a big point, G.
What I said before, and I'll repeat. You're learning. The form is a sequence of learning, a set sequence of learning. You must have consistency in an organization. Okay. If you have 20 students in a class and each of those students have their own permutation and combinations of number 1 to 52, you have disorganization. If you have a set pattern of learning, everybody
understands. But if I never give them 1 to 52, we don't have that because I never gave it to them.
If you don't give them 1 to 52, you have disorganization. You need to have organization. That's common sense. If I tell you, here are 52 techniques, I want you guys to learn all of these in any order that you want. And then you call a student up, okay, demonstrate this one, number 10 for me. Well, my number 10 is different from your number 10. Now I could say, okay, demonstrate a parry and sidekick. That's different. But it's a set sequence of learning, right? That have been in existence for a long time. You go back to the Silam Dao and your Wing Chun and on the Chum Q and all, those are set patterns that can, if broken apart, each of those can be applied in a practical aspect and situation. But there has to be a sequence of learning. The human body learns because of repetition, right? Yes. When we train over and over and over, we develop muscle memory, right? If I do that Angmun form 1 to 5, and I know that with the hook punch, this is what I can do, this or that, naturally my body is going to remember that without thinking. And that's what we aim to do as martial artists, to develop muscle memory with repetition. As Guru Dan always says, repetition is the mother of all skills. You get repetition from doing the form over and over and over. By doing the form, you ensure that you have the body parts in the right position. You can execute with enough power and hip rotation. That's the only way you can learn that, with repetition. And now, that being said,
there's no power element in the Angmun form, Marvin. There's no power.
I'm speaking about forms generally. You look at the second form in Wing Chun, Chum Q, right? That's an explosive form. There's a lot of power generation in that form based on hip rotation and all that. That's a fact.
But that's not what I'm not talking about Chum Q.
Okay, well, we're talking about forms generally. But if you look at the Angmun form.
Oh, okay, we changed the conversation.
Let's go back to the Angmun form. If we go back to the Angmun form, every motion teaches you a specific movement. It teaches you what to do and what not to do. It teaches you the right way to execute.
The right way under what conditions? The right way in what scenario? because you're just moving against the air. So how is it teaching you the right way? In what application? In what scenario?
It's teaching you the right.
Why the two of y'all looking off to the side?
I'm checking my phone. I'm checking the time.
Y'all have people telling you. Y'all have.
Rhea heard the conversation and she just walked in.
Oh, all right. Well, actually, now I have to start behaving. I don't want Rhea coming on camera and giving me a good talking to again.
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 She's listening now. Now you're in trouble.
Oh God.
Marvin, can I say you
go right ahead. I think
Dwight, I'm gonna go back to how we ended the conversation the last time. You're still looking at it in a concrete bound fashion. It's gotta be thought of conceptually. You're specifically trying, well, we're never gonna use a move in this form like this or in that sequence. Probably not. But and we got to get this idea of form out of our heads. It's not form like a sequence. It's form. It's form.
Okay.
See what I'm getting at?
I understand those two readings of the word form.
Right.
I'm not sure if everybody understands the reading, because you look in all the discussions that I have had with people about this, maybe once, right, has the idea of the difference between having no form and having no form, right, has not come up.
Yes.
You see, and I think people are I think they're confused, and they're reading form in one way only, because they seem to think that the movements of the kata are the movements for application. They're confusing those two readings of the word form. They think the form gives you form. Oh Lord.
I like that. I like that t-shirt.
Well, yeah, well, see that, right? That's what I get for never putting nothing in a package.
You know, Marvin, this is what I had to do last time when this came up. You know, I brought Rhea in. Boy,
right. Very good. Very good.
Plenty. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Of course, you.
What happened?
No, go ahead. We will listen.
No.
Yes. So I get that, but one of the things I'm trying to just make it as simple as possible is you can't look at it concrete bound. You've got to see the benefits that translate into the movement. Most importantly, Dwight, and I hate to say this, but this is an outsider looking into Jeet Kune. Look at the results of what has happened from getting away of this type of structure. Hardly anyone that you're looking at Jeet Kune today looks clean in the way they should be looking. I don't want you to look like Bruce. I just want you to look clean in your delivery and sharp and to the point. And that all came about because of a process that this man followed. And even though he said discard it at this point, he shouldn't have.
Did he say that?
He did. He did say, and Dwight can confirm that. He did say discard it. But as you know, Danny came back recently and said, don't get it wrong. He was still practicing forms behind closed doors, right?
Yeah. I heard that, right? I can do that.
You find the value of a form?
No. This is the discussion for today.
Of having a form?
Yeah.
Transitions, body control, perfect balance, perfect form. I mean, why discard something that has so many benefits versus trying to do it your own way, your own freestyle? And the thing about a form is that it forces you to repeat certain concepts over and over. When you're freestyling it, you can't remember every concept to repeat consistently.
You can, if let's say that I was taught, I'll make a joke out of this. let's say I was taught 21 different things against the jab cross. And in working these 21 things over and over again, I realized that 3 of them work for me. I can repeat those 3.
Mhm.
Yes.
Those 3 can become my form, my improvised form, like Marvin was talking about earlier.
Those are concrete examples. Those are concrete examples. These specific 3 things work for me. Those are
Yes.
concrete bound. We're talking about concepts. Remember, we spoke about concepts the last time we spoke. And it's beyond just a specific move. So if you are freestyling, you are not replicating the many various things that forms force your body to do. Be off balance, be in perfect control, be in control while in the air, be in control while on the ground, whether your forms have sweeps, whether your forms have spinning jump kicks, whether your forms have...
No, because...
You're not going to have that kind of repetitive body control, body challenge, balance challenge. We're not saying that you're going to use those things.
Well, I can get that kind of repetition. I can get that kind of repetition, especially if you're talking about being able to do stuff off balance, right? All I have to do is to set up a drill with a partner, right? That includes
so far. A form forces you to transition. If you have a form that's 3 minutes long while you're practicing it, you are constantly practicing transition, balance, and body control, and center line coverage, strikes, and defense, while moving from one thing to the next. This is not like
I can do.
Doing something.
I can do that. Ria, I can do that over and over again. All I have to do is set the timer for 3 minutes and go, okay, you're moving for 3 minutes. And whatever comes out, comes out. And I could set that up tomorrow morning, and I can remember, right, that at 7:21 yesterday, Ria said about being off balance. And in my shadow boxing for 3 minutes tomorrow, I include an off balance response.
Yeah.
I can do that tomorrow easily.
Frequency at which you're going to remember to do all those things consistently. Honestly, what is the frequency when you set up because we do a lot of, freestyling stuff here, but the frequency of which you would remember every single thing you have to cover is not that great. It's not as often as you think.
I say it's not often as you think, and remember the meaning, meaning, a pathway.
Not necessarily, because I could have a list of things, right, that have to be included in my shadow boxing. And from doing that over and over again, I can remember the items in that list.
So what you just described.
Timer, an alarm, a list, all of that just to eliminate one form.
Are you gonna do it? Is he gonna do it?
Okay. What he just described. What he just described with his timer and his.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what he just described is he created his own form. That's what he just described. And how is that different?
He didn't set up his own form.
From what?
His own method to cover the bases a form would cover in his own way.
Correct.
He had to make a list.
And it becomes. It becomes a form. It becomes a form that he can call his own. It becomes a form.
Wait.
Frequency.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And then when he comes down, you go, oh my God, I didn't practice the sweep. Oh my God, I forget I didn't use the elbow.
Ria, you don't have any confidence in my retention skills? Huh?
Humanity, boy. We are all human. Humanity. So often I think I could freestyle something, and I am not a stupid person, right? But after I've done with everything, and I think I've covered everything, and I go and I look at, oh my gosh, look in your notebook. I didn't do that. I didn't do this. I didn't do the other. I didn't. All of these things could have been covered if I just take a minute to do 2 or 3 forms, different ones.
A pathway to the system, Dwight. That's all it is.
To the more advanced.
Now the advantage is, Dwight, I think one of the reasons why we're kind of on the same page is because, yes, you're right. You could look at my forms and see that they are they applicable and move the way we move to our system.
That's all I want.
Okay, right?
That's all I want.
But they weren't always like that, is what I'm saying.
But
you know what I'm saying?
Right?
Right?
So Bruce Lee realized that they weren't always like that and moved away from that and moved in the direction of
Did
what
he
I
really?
just.
Did he really?
He didn't really do that. He might have
told you all he did that.
No. He cannot take the form out of his muscle memory.
No, he can't do it. He can't do it. He can't
You know,
do
the
it.
thing is, I'll add this. He looked so good on screen and in reality because of his work that he put into forms.
You
right?
can't do
What?
it.
Of
What?
course. There's
What?
no denying that. There's no denying that.
The first thing you learn as a martial artist or any kind of martial style is the way you're going to fight for the rest of your life. That's going to be your default position when you're under pressure. No amount of training is going to take that away.
I guarantee you, there was no form that Bruce Lee ever trained in that had a sidekick the way he would sidekick in the movies.
You missed the point. See, that's what I mean. You're thinking too concrete bound, right?
No.
It was the fact that he learned those forms and understood body position and the art of how the body moves that he was able to look at a sidekick and say, if I'm going to do that sidekick, I know exactly how I'm going to do it to make it look pretty and artful and powerful. Absolutely, Dwight.
Okay.
So concrete.
One of the best kickers that we have known is the late Salem Astley.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Salem didn't learn any French savate forms.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that? Are you sure?
Huh?
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. French savate forms.
But
right?
Yes.
Instead, you know what you have at the different glove levels in savate, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have. So here's what Salem would make us do. Okay, dig it, Ria. You will appreciate this because you have a better understanding of these two, right? Salem would. Right. So let's say it is a drill for green glove level, right? You had to be able to do it in slow motion by yourself. Then you had to be able to do it in slow motion on a partner. Then you had to be able to do it at speed by yourself. Then you had to be able to do it at speed on a partner. You had to be able to do it on the heavy bag by yourself. You had to be able to do it on tie pad and focus mitt combination with a partner.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there was no forms.
So how do you define doing it by yourself over and over? How do you define that? If there was one word you'd use to describe that, what would it be? Would it not be form? Perfecting your form?
No, that would be shadow boxing.
That's what it is. No, it's not shadow boxing. It's perfecting your form. we can call it shadow boxing.
That's what shadow boxing is for.
But it's a form.
That's what shadow boxing is for.
Shadow boxing is to execute a dynamic motion once you perfect the static motion. Okay? You need to understand the proper way to throw a jab before you can shadow box. Are you familiar with the trick boxing system? It's a set sequence of jabs, straight arm punch sets, right? That teaches you hip rotation, proper positioning, center line, punching, and all that, right? That's a set pattern of punching that teaches you to jab and cross. It's a form. And then you added the dynamic nature to it by moving around and shadow boxing with the jab and cross. But if you can't throw a proper jab and cross,
there's no deviation, Marvin. There's no deviation between the static and the dynamic. The way you move is exactly the same. There's no difference.
Right. There is
you have to learn one before you learn the other.
Yeah, but there's no difference. See, this is what I'm saying. You can set it up however you want, as long as the final product, let's call it, right, at the start and at the end is the same thing, because what you're working on is execution. So there's no deviation. Whatever stage of the learning is going on, there's no deviation in execution. That's all I'm saying. So if you want to create a Jeet Kune Do form, just make sure that its structure is based on actual execution, not on anything else.
Mm-hmm.
That Savat example I gave you, there's no deviation.
But
If you think about boxers, if a boxer shadow boxes, right? Double uppercut, cross hook, cross. It looks the same way when he's doing it in the air by himself, when he does it with a partner, when he does it on the heavy bag, when he does it in combat.
Not necessarily.
It looks the same way.
I disagree.
It looks the same way, unless something like off balance or something happens and you miss and you have to recover or what have you. But there is no, right? So there's outside influences, but there is no deviation. There's no deviation along the way practicing. He never moves and does the double uppercut in a way that he wouldn't try to apply it. There's no deviation. That's what Bruce Lee was after.
After the fact.
Stop. Behave yourself. Stop bringing that up.
I'm sorry. After the fact.
Stop bringing that up. Every time you bring that up, you defeat my point. Stop bringing that up.
I don't care what nobody say. After the fact.
But you know, what you're saying is valuable to perfect your kicking or your form. All those things do still apply. They still make you a better martial artist. They just cannot replace a whole system of you could do your kick slow on the bag with one person, two people, slow, fast, medium, however. But that doesn't cover all the bases. The form is covering all the bases in one short period of time. See, it's not about an end. It's not about having a perfect kick or a perfect punch, although forms do that for you, depending on the type of form you're doing. It is to cover all the bases at once in a short period of time. That's what forms do. And it also gives you body control and conditioning, all these things, right? You're even practicing conditioning in muscular conditions of different levels, different ways, all of these things.
Okay, Marvin, let me ask you a question.
Don't forget to say to Danny, yeah? Don't forget.
Is it happy birthday today? Are you guys done?
Go ahead.
You guys are not done?
Marvin, let me ask you a question. Does the Now Tech exist in the Ung Moon? I can't believe we didn't talk about form for like an hour.
That's a good question. I should know this. I should know this offhand. I'll get an answer to you shortly.
Does the Dumb Tech exist in the Ung Moon?
No, it does not.
Right. Okay. See.
Actually, yes, it does. So Pak Jik Dumb Tech, Khao Sao Juk Tech. So the Dumb Tech does exist. Yes.
Okay. But the hook kick is not in the form.
The Now Tech is not in there, no.
And the hook kick is a workhorse Jeet Kune Do technique.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So if a workhorse Jeet Kune Do technique does not exist in this so-called Jeet Kune Do form, what kind of Jeet Kune Do form is it? Let me ask you this, right? Is the straight rear a workhorse Jeet Kune Do technique?
It is.
Is the lead hook a workhorse Jeet Kune Do technique? Are those things in this so-called Jeet Kune Do form?
So the Ung Moon form is a defensive.
Answer first, yes or no? Answer first.
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Well, answer first. Are they in the form? Yes or no?
those are attacks you just called. The unmoon form is not attack. It's about defending and attacking. Right? Your tanda is defend and attack, simultaneous counter and attacking. Your builder is the same thing. Your ganda is the same thing. Hawang Pasta, all those are attack and defending at the same time. So it's a specific form for attacking and defending at the same time.
So it doesn't have primary Jeet Kune Do techniques in it.
The unmoon is a form that exists. It's not the be all and end all of Jeet Kune Do.
You know why? You know why? Because there are no forms in Jeet Kune Do. That's why it's not. It's an idea that somebody had at a period in time and created. Okay?
Which helps
That's why
perfect.
It doesn't have everything in it.
Well, it's a form.
Well,
it's
I'll tell you
one
this,
of the
if
forms.
it doesn't help you to perfect, right? Simple direct or simple angular attack. If it doesn't help you to perfect attack by combination, if it doesn't help you to perfect progressive indirect attack, if it doesn't help you to perfect attack by drawing, if it doesn't help you to perfect, right, immobilization attack, then it should not be called a Jeet Kune Do form. The things that should be called Jeet Kune Do form are the things that help you to perfect those, the 5 ways of attack, central theory of Jeet Kune Do.
Well, that's a holistic approach, right? It's not possible to have a form to cover everything that you just did.
Right. So that's why forms don't exist in Jeet Kune Do, because it's not a viable training method.
I still don't agree, because there are certain attributes that you will develop from forms, right?
Yes, but you know what attributes you develop from forms? The attributes of the form.
Right,
The form attributes. You know how you develop fighting attributes? From fighting.
Right, but how can you fight if you don't know to throw a proper jab? How can you not throw a proper jab without working your form?
Because there are training methods. There are training methods. You don't start with the fighting. There
you
are
start
training
with the
methods.
form. You start with the form.
You don't start with the form. No.
You have to.
You start.
You have to know.
You don't start with the kata. You start with the structure,
which is part of the kata.
That's not. No.
It is.
It isn't.
It is.
No.
The proper execution
the
of a
kata
form
requires you to remember, right? See, look, you're talking about how the unmoon is a defensive thing or counter-offensive thing, right? Okay, so you're telling me that it at what point does the unmoon come into people's curriculum?
If you, again, like I said, it's 52 set movements that if fragmented.
At what point are Jeet Kune Do students, to the best of your knowledge, at what point are Jeet Kune Do students introduced to the unmoon form?
I introduced them. My I would say intermediate to senior students were introduced a couple of years ago to that, and
so
new students who join. And I pretty much tossed to the deep end of the pool, and they do that. They may show up at the second class or whatever, and they do that as part of their training. So they may learn it at the beginning, or they may learn it 2 months down the road. It all depends on when it's being taught, but it's introduced.
So y'all are using the same approach that Shotokan karate would use.
I wouldn't say so.
Because because you're probably introduced to Heian Shodan your first day as a white belt in Shotokan.
Right. Yep.
Or your second day.
Correct.
You see? So when people say that there's a movement towards the classicalization of Jeet Kune Do, this is the kind of thing that they're talking about.
Yeah, but huge default premise there, Dwight.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. We could.
Didn't we have anything else to talk about besides this bloody form?
We could talk about. Yeah, let's move on.
I think we did.
We wanted to talk about. We wanted to talk about. We wanted to talk about.
Talk about Marvin and his school and his teachers and.
Well, no, I mean, we could see all that going on behind him. You didn't see all that activity?
There's actually a class in progress right now.
Right.
Let's end on this.
You see,
you could talk.
You see how lucky we are to have that superstar spend some time with us.
And he on.
Yes, Jeet, thank you very much, Jeet, for spending time with us, superstar.
But I'm going to end with this, Dwight, and then let's move on, right? You could talk all you want to talk about the classical and the Shotokan and all, but the one thing is, when those guys from wherever they are to wherever they are now deliver a reverse punch and they shoot it, they all look freaking great. And you know why? That is part and a staple of their form. And again, right? I think we're on the same page with, yes, you may want to see more forms.
Yes.
If there are forms in Jeet Kune that translate more to how you move, but you need some kind of structure, Dwight, to get that cleanness out. And that's what's lacking in Jeet Kune today. It is.
It is because of a misunderstanding, right? You look, you want to know why part of it is missing? You want to know why part of it is missing?
Go, listen, yeah.
A lot of people did not come across their instructors when their instructors were at their prime. You see, so they forget to model the best example that we have, even if it's a cinematic representation. So instead, they model their instructors who are now in their 50s, in their 60s, in their 70s, in their 80s. So they move like those people move because of when they came along.
Right.
You see, if you only been around, if you let's say you joined Inasano 20 years ago, right? You joined Inasano at 66. Okay, right? So now dig this, right? Dig this. So you joined Inasano 20 years ago. So he's age 66. Do you really think that you can say anything to somebody who joined Inasano when he was 36? But you can go and go, oh, I got 20 years with Dan Inasano. Okay. All right. That sounds good. But you joined him when he was 66 years old. There are still people around who joined Inasano when he was 36 years old. Does that make a difference?
That could, I don't know, like I said, but that could be that's a huge
Okay. Let's say you joined Inasano 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And on average, you see him twice a year for 10 hours. Not like Marvin, who lives in LA.
Right.
So I'm not talking about Marvin. As you know, Marvin don't tell people, right, that his full name is actually Marvin Inasano Ishmael, right? Because he adopted.
Yeah, and I don't even see him, but yeah, go ahead.
Exactly, right? He don't tell anybody that, okay? But regular people, right? Maybe they see Inasano twice a year.
Regular people.
For 10 hours each time.
Right.
So they clock 20 hours with him per year. So in 20 years, they clock 400 hours. Right? Now, what if a guy spent 8 hours a day with Inasano 5 days a week? Right?
Yeah, but
that's 40 hours. So in 10 weeks, this guy has the same, in 10 weeks, this guy spends the time that it took somebody 20 years to spend. Who do you listen to?
Yeah, but is Inosanto? Well, I can't comment on that. I don't know.
Okay.
I will say something.
Marvin can say something.
Who do you listen to, Marvin?
Be responsible for all of that? I mean, there's so many friggin' teachers around, right? In Jeet Kune. Marvin, I mean, you could expound more on that.
Well, I would say that, what did you say, 400 hours, you said? I would say 400 hours over 20 years will also include hundreds of hours of perfection of techniques in between that. Now, if you compare someone who is training for 5 days at 8 hours, that's 40 hours of training that is raw, that has not been perfected, that has not been dissected, right? So you're learning from somebody who has 40 hours of training, but that information has not been analyzed. Whereas you're comparing somebody who has been, okay, I trained for 10 hours, I go back and I work that information, I ask questions.
Marvin, because
Why
there's
not?
there's 16 hours left in the day after you spend 8 with Inasano. And then let's say it's Monday to Friday, and then you have Saturday and Sunday off. So of course you have time. You have time to work on your stuff.
Yeah, but it's not to say it's having 16 hours. You sleep for 6 to 8 hours or 2 hours if you're G, and you have the rest of time.
Or you don't sleep.
Or you don't sleep at all. But still, you can't compare. You can't compare 16 hours by 5 to the rest of the time in that year. Again, of course, the more exposure you have, the better it is. But learning that amount of information, that short space of time, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to perfect it or that you can teach it. So who would I listen to? That's the question you ask. I would listen to the person who I believe has more experience. And experience comes not just with being direct with a teacher. Experience comes from teaching, and teaching is going to take place over time.
You really think that if somebody spent 8 hours, right, with Inasano, that outside of the time spent with Inasano, they don't work on anything? Or you think that the 8 hours, that part of that 8 hours was not working on the stuff?
I never said that. You spend 8 hours working on the material, but again, we are comparing 5 days to 20 years. That's what we're comparing right now.
Right.
40 hours over 5 days,
and I'm saying
400 hours over 20 years.
And I'm saying time spent, right? Time spent, and one person achieves that time spent, and time spent of a higher quality.
Well, right? It depends. So how do you define?
What?
Higher quality is not just defined by the teacher who's teaching you.
Let me explain to you why I'm saying this, right? If you want to understand this whole thing about forms in Jeet Kune, I say listen to Chris Kent. That's what I say. I say listen to Chris Kent. Yeah. Find what he says about forms in Jeet Kune. Because that's a guy, right, that came across Inasano when he was 36. And that's a guy who spent, right, quality time with Inasano over a period of years. Not somebody who comes in, not like you, Marvin, not somebody who comes in for 10 hours twice a year. Right? That's my point.
Right. But you are talking about Sifu Chris Kent from when he met Guru Dan when he was 36 to now. Would you say the same thing? Would you have the same viewpoint if you met Sifu Chris Kent when Guru Dan was 36 years old, 1 week or 5 days after? No. You're saying that now because he has spent years with him. Right? Does he still spend 5 hours, 8 hours every week, every day with him for a week? No.
No.
Right? So you can't compare. You're not comparing apples to apples. It's not the same thing. Of course, he's an authority on Jeet Kune Do, Sifu Chris Kent, and a very respectable one, because he started his journey there, spending a lot of time with him in short spaces, right? But then over the years, it progressed. So his experience is based on how much is it, 40 years or whatever the case is. How much I can't remember how old he is, but that is his experience. So of course you will listen to him because he has been there ever since for a long time. But if you take somebody right now and say, okay, you're going to train with, I'm going to send you to LA, you're going to train with Guru Dan for 40 hours and you're going to come back and you're going to teach me everything you know, I will still go to Sifu Chris Kent because he's been there over a longer period of time, over 40 years or whatever the case is.
Right.
So
that's what I was saying.
Well,
I was saying exactly. He's the kind of guy that you would go to.
Correct. Not because he spent 40 hours in 5 days, but because you spent years training with him. That's why I would go to him. Not the short. The first question you ask is, would you go to someone who has spent 40 hours in 5 days or 400 hours in 20 years?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean that person spent. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, no, that's not what I meant. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't mean that person spent only 10 weeks within a sand.
Oh, okay. So that's what I thought you meant.
No, my point was that in 10 weeks, that guy logged the same amount of time it took another guy 20 years to log. I'm not saying he logged his 400 hours and quit. No.
Okay, all right, good.
No.
I stand corrected, yeah. Okay.
No, I didn't explain it. I'm sorry.
Right.
I wasn't saying that he only had 400 hours in 10 weeks and then he didn't have anything else. No, I'm saying he got his 400 within 10 weeks and then ended up being there for 15 years.
Got it. That makes more sense now. Yes. So obviously that's a no-brainer.
Okay.
That's a no-brainer. Yeah. Got it.
Gee, I must be getting tired. I can't explain myself well.
I'm an observer. I'm having a ball.
Oh, hush. Right. So G never, I got to tell everybody that he never answered my little interview questions about, you see, he didn't even do the one about awards and recognition. And he's the only one of us, Marvin, as far as I know, that had a whole city give him like keys to the city and the mayor.
I know.
Right?
And a big plaque.
Yeah. There is no Caribbean association anywhere in Florida that ever recognized me for anything.
Oh, by the way, Florida gave me an award too. I just said that. I haven't.
Yeah.
See?
See how it is? You see how it is?
I forgot about that one. Oh my God, you guys are too much.
Right?
You're too much.
No, we should. So I'm gonna give people some inside baseball, right? So, a few weeks ago, maybe even a couple of months ago, right? I'm on Instagram, I think it was, because if everybody doesn't know, how many followers he has on Instagram now, Marvin?
Oh my God,
500,000.
500,000, 500,000 or something, right? Right? Yeah. Okay. So he puts up, I think it was a teaser for one of the three. In case you all don't know, right? The man produced 3 movies in Trinidad, right? He puts up the teaser. You know me, I like to analyze what I'm seeing. So I send him a little message. I go, gee, I can't work out how many cameras you used on that shoot, right? Because it looked like a multi-camera setup to me, right? He goes, nah, Dwight, it was one camera.
I was more stunned that you noticed. I was shocked that you noticed.
Yeah, because you don't produce that type of stuff.
Yeah.
With one camera.
Yeah. One.
You know, I mean that on Charlie's Angels we had at least 2, if not 3 cameras.
Multi-camera setup. Yep.
Yeah, all the time.
Yep.
All the time. I mean, I look at guys who do podcasts, you know, for a living, and they have 2 cameras.
Yeah.
Right. You know, these guys have two camera setup. Right.
Yeah.
So anyhow.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get you guys involved in this whole Jeet Kune forms thing because you know my only concern is that there isn't enough attention being paid to the way things should be done. Right? There's not an emphasis on quality in stuff now. The emphasis is on acquisition of information because it's not even necessarily knowledge. It's like, how many things did you get at this seminar, right? Or how many things did you get at this conference or what have you? As opposed to how many things did you get that you went home and work the stuffing out of to a point of proficiency.
Yeah.
You see? So
yeah. I mean, as an outsider looking in, that's my biggest beef with Jeet Kune Do. It's okay. You just did 10 techniques. You didn't even throw the jab right. You just did this combination. You didn't twist. You didn't use your hips. You threw a jab across and a right cross, and you telegraphed, 10 seconds before you threw the jab. I mean, that
right.
affects everything. That's right. It affects everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Marvin is.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm just trying because I'm hearing stuff in the background. I don't know if that's coming from my you. But you know what?
Yeah,
We've been
there's
at
a
this.
class in progress. There's a class in progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we've been at this for almost 2 hours. So we can all set it up again. But the one thing we didn't discuss, right, is in 2 days, Dan Inosanto turns 86.
86.
Right. So Marvin, I imagine you will be in LA in 2 days for happy birthdays.
No, I won't be in LA, but nope, I'll be there in spirit.
Okay. All right. All right. So that means that the last time, well, no, not the last time, but I met him on a Sunday, July 24th. So it would be what now? 39 years ago.
Mm.
His birthday was on the Sunday that I flew in to LA, and by the time I got over to the university, they were having a little birthday party thing for him. If I'm pretty sure I have this right, Sunday, July 24th, 1983.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So you probably don't know about this, but before live stream and all this stuff, when I came across a thing called a teleseminar, I used to try to do a birthday celebration every year, and it was about people phoning into a bridge line, and I would record it, right? And so I would record people telling their little Inosanto stories, right? And wishing him happy birthday. And then I would have that recording, and I would send that recording to him.
Nice.
Because I always thought that was more personal because what's going to happen, it's probably happening now on the Inosanto fan page. They probably already started wishing him happy birthday.
Nice.
Right? But that's everybody from anywhere in the world. Right. So the list is, the birthday wishes on that post, right, is gonna, go from here to Timbuktu. But what is that? That's not intensely personal. So I used to try to get people to come on the phone with me. This is before live stream, right? But it was the phone version of this.
Right.
And talk about it, talk about him, and then I would have the recording and what have you. But I was never able to get people to fully embrace that. And then when Facebook came along, it was like the easiest thing to do is to just type in happy birthday. Right. But that doesn't go anywhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? It doesn't go anywhere. So I'll do it too, but I'm not a big fan of conveying your best wishes to him that way. Wow. Right?
86.
Anyhow.
And he's probably still doing his catch up, I'm sure.
And Marvin, he's hitting the road again, right?
He is, yes. I know he's going to Atlanta in September, and he's going to Australia.
Right.
At the end of November.
Wow. Right.
No intentions of.
I wonder what's going to happen. Next year. All right. So listen, I think I froze again. So that's a hint we should.
And we just lost him. Marvin, wonderful. I'm checking the background. Yeah, it's okay. That place looks lovely, Marvin. Lovely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Tell everybody hi for me.
I will do that. I guess we can sign off. I have no idea how to end the stream.
I think we just quit our browser and that should do it.
He just rejoined. Yeah. It's not coming on yet.
Host join. Maybe he's gone.
I am not sure.
Okay, well, we can sign out.
Hold on.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Yeah. The funny thing is that I have like 5 green bars before I come on, and when I come on, it goes all the way down to like 1 red one. I don't know what the hell is going on, right?
Okay.
But I just realized that, Marvin texted us 43 minutes ago to tell us that students were coming in and it was going to get noisy and we should wrap it up.
Now serious.
I just saw that, right?
But it's not too noisy. It's bad. Not too bad.
That was exciting. Yeah, that was exciting to see that and feel that. That's all part of it, man. Love you guys.
Right. Anyhow, my boys, thanks very much.
Right.
We will talk soon.
Okay.
People don't know we're going to hang up from this, and tomorrow we'll be on the phone again.
Right. Yes. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much. And
all right, man.
talk to you all.
Okay. I'll see you guys soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.